to the Wild Bunch podcast, episode 5. Yeah, episode 5.
Yeah, bro,
all right, episode 5. By Chief Jones.
Mino Jones.
Hi, I'm Christian Pedersen. I'm sitting in on this one.
Today we got like a little Wild Bunch SD Prep Insider crossover, whatever you want to call it.
I think we can call this one episode 4.5.
Hey.
Like, this isn't a full-blown interview. This is just like we're taking a week to just talk some football.
Yeah, mid-season, review. Go over it a little bit.
So how's the season going then? Let's answer that both in the Lincoln form and just in general.
Okay. Well, as far as Lincoln, 5-0 right now, I guess. So, I guess from the outside in, you can say, look, it's looking good. But I just think we got a lot. We got a lot to work on. Defensively, just trying to be more consistent. I preaching this year to my players. We got 3 C's: consistency, connectivity, and chemistry. You know what I'm saying? So it's just trying to get everybody on the same page. Losing a lot of guys last year, all those seniors, Josiah, Hunter, Chris Freewell, Chris White, Peavy. Lost my whole back end. My whole back end was seniors, and both my edge rushers were seniors.
You lost one of the best linebacking cores that San Diego's ever seen, but you replaced him with one of the best linebacking cores that San Diego's ever seen.
Defensive back, yeah. So just trying to replace all them. Got a bunch of young guys. So what I can say now defensively is what used to be my strength is my weakness, and what used to be my weakness is now my strength. So I think this year we're a lot more stern against the run, because I did return all my D tackles, and then you just saw LJ and Micah, and LJ and Micah are both having crazy years. I remember you guys did a topic. You guys were asking who was the best player in San Diego. I think Jerome is the best player in San Diego.
Our topic was left somewhat vague and I think widely misinterpreted. We were just talking about Kevin Allen specifically because he plays both offense and defense and special teams and does everything. So
and don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted, because Kevin is like that. You feel me? That's little bro. I even hit him and I told him, you doing your stuff.
Well, so I was gonna say football though is precarious like that, where sometimes you have guys that are like, he does just defense, he does just offense, but he does it so much better than everybody else that he really is the best football. So any headlines you ever see from us is vaguely clickbait.
Nah, so I get it. I get it. I just think LJ is the best player in the county, offensively, defensively, however you want to call it, because he plays all the top guys. Everybody you can think of. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't played against Helix yet, but everybody you can think of that is like a top guy. He plays top competition, and he always stands out on the field. All you gotta do is just watch a game or watch film, watch a whole game, just being there watching it. And even last year, having Josiah as the defensive player of the year, Jerome was probably the second best player. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's just how I feel about Joe. Everybody that he's seen that was supposed to be the top guy, he outplayed him. Whether it was a guy on defense or a guy on offense, he outplayed him. And that's just the proof in the pudding to me.
So far so good.
So far so good
at 5-0. Pair of shutouts feels nice for a DC. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, it's just about being more consistent.
You want them all to be shutouts.
Yeah. But offensively, they're picking it up. A lot of new guys too. New quarterback, new receivers, O-line. So everybody's trying to get on the same page. So that's how it's going for us. What you think?
Yeah. First of all, the season came by pretty fast. It's only my first year, but 5-0, five games in, came pretty fast. And just like he said, with the strength and the weakness kind of changing, I don't think the back end is really – I don't think it's weak at all. But I am coaching the DBs, and just for them, we're trying to – since they're young, we're trying to get them to really get into knowing the game and doing more. You know what I mean? Since they're younger, we have a longer time to mold them, and we're just trying to get them right now.
So what we're seeing this year is going to be 2 or 3 years worth of this core?
This core will probably, this year and next year for sure. And as far as San Diego, I think the season is it's pretty interesting. It's pretty good football going around. You know, you got Carlsbad up north, Helix and Granite out east, I guess. Man, the South Bay, I don't know about the South Bay though. It's kind of rough out there, but you know, it's a pretty good season.
I would play devil's advocate on behalf of the South Bay and say that the plot lines are just different. That they're not contending for open division anything, but you can talk about Bonita Vista is 4-1 and quite literally studio mics. We're gonna turn this one down. Brian Caruso DM'd me and said, "Don't pay attention to them. My son's on the team. They're not gonna win." So the fact that Bonita is having so far a pretty good year, and I think Chula is in. I mean, who knows what Mount Miguel is after losing to Bishops. Like we'll see. That
was probably
craziest
a big
game of the
upset.
year so far.
You know what I'm saying? Nobody. I wasn't expecting that.
I don't know what to say there. My brother-in-law's the DC at Bishops.
Is he? Oh, so okay. So your brother-in-law's the DC
at Bishops.
I
Yeah.
never knew his name, but
Simons.
Yeah. So always I seen a couple games and stuff. I always thought always thought whoever the defensive coordinator is seems like a pretty good like he know what he's doing. You know.
Yeah,
I feel like he was telling
that one weeks out, saying he's like, "Nah, man, I'm gonna shut Verlaine up." And I'm like, "I don't know, dog. You got a bunch of white kids, and your one guy's your transfer is not eligible yet." Yeah. But like, Chula Vista is competitive for that division. Bonita's having a great year, so I would say, like the South Bay is just, yes, they're not at the premier. Modern Day is not up there messing around with open division, but they're having an okay year.
But the South Bay always had somebody like at least that could compete with those. I'm saying that can compete with those top scores. You know what I'm saying?
It's going to be a while until an Eastlake or someone like that comes back. Eastlake has been a really tragic fall off as a program.
But even Otay has some good teams. You know what I'm saying? They got a good running back now, though. He's pretty good.
Yeah, Otay's kind of struggled from they just have the one dude, and then once everyone figures out how to contain the Perinata, was it Nico Perinata? Who was their running back? Sammy, I think Perinata.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago, it was always like dragging kids literally with him, or something like that, or Devon Lloyd when he played at Otay or something like that. You were.
Yeah, they smacked up Mino on them.
No, I was with Sammy. They didn't want to see us in playoffs.
Devon played on that team too, didn't he? I think Devon Lloyd and Sammy were on the same team, weren't they?
On the same team? I'm not sure if that was
all-time favorite interview I've ever done in Prep Insider history was Devon Lloyd, because I went down there. This was back when we were still going to schools just to do individual interviews, and he said, I was asking him, like, so you play kind of like all positions, your little offense, little defense, like, what do you want to be introduced as? And he goes, I'm the punter. And I was like, bro, what? Like, nah. And he turns and he goes, Coach, tell him I'm the punter. He goes, he is our punter. He's really good at soccer. Okay. And so he goes, he's just like, kid's got a sick sense of humor. And he didn't want to talk about his defense or anything or all of his sacks. He's like, man, just every question was like, hey, so how's the season going? I'm averaging 38 yards a punt this. Wow. This kid is a jokester. Now he's an edge rusher in the NFL.
He's playing outside back.
Yeah, a little outside back, a little D. I'm like, got him on tape talking about punting.
Nah, Devin was nice, man. He was nice.
I would disagree with you though, and say that this was a good first 2 weeks, and then it's been chaos the last 2 weeks of teams starting to no longer seem like, oh, they're 4-0, they're gonna run through everything. They take a first loss. Helix beat the crap out of Cathedral. Like, there's some of what I thought was going to be an 8 or 9 team group at the top that now looks like maybe it's 5. And then, like, because, like, Helix and Granite still got to play. Like, it seems like maybe there's some stuff kind of weeding itself out that we're in the process of right now, which always bums me out a little.
I think it depends on what you're expecting. You know what I'm saying?
I say that from the point of 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, I thought that you guys, Carlsbad, LCC, Poway Saints, Helix Cathedral, maybe even I thought we had 10 or 11 like teams that could go 7-3, and you would enjoy watching them, and you would be like, that's good football. And I'm not saying that teams would compete necessarily for that number 1 spot, but I thought we had a little bit deeper top end this year than we seem to necessarily have.
So what do you mean by top end?
I mean teams that, like, when you go watch them.
When you say top end, do you mean a championship?
No, I just mean teams that when you go watch them, and you go, That's good football. Like, that was whether or not they're going to go on to win an open division championship. You leave the game. Like, this is no disrespect meant, but like, you can tell the difference between a D1 offense and a D5 offense. Like, you don't watch Kerney's tape the same way you watch Carlsbad's tape. They're both good teams, but you don't watch Kerney going, oh, they could go toe-to-toe with anybody, and it would be a great game. You watch Carlsbad, and you're like, hey, even if they lose to Lincoln, that's still going to be a pretty good game. So that's why I was saying top end. Like, teams that you're like, you walk away from that going, if I knew nobody on either side, but I picked that as where I was going on a Friday, I would find that to be an enjoyable game to watch.
It's all about matchups, man. It's all about matchups. It just depends. It depends on what you're expecting. It depends on what you're expecting. Me personally, I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was 10 teams. Like, I just didn't think.
Yeah, no, and I was being hopeful.
Yeah.
I was just hoping for it. Because I think that we're not necessarily a huge football city.
Yeah.
Like, we have a couple of really elite programs like you guys, but we don't have necessarily everybody grows up playing Pop Warner and like craving that Friday night lights the same way that maybe like baseball here in San Diego is something that like everybody grows up like the cream of the crop. Like, we got the best of the best. So I think I was just hoping for a little bit more. But you're also seeing matchups, and I notice with matchups sometimes you go, oh, damn, that would have been a good game last year with those two teams from last year, but they scheduled it for this year. And
I think in order to see what you are talking about right now, I think all those teams that you name will have to play each other. And I don't think all those teams want to play all those teams you named.
No, a lot of teams like tomato cans. They like to start out the first couple of weeks with winnable games and stuff like that.
I get that, week 1, week 2, but like, it's a gang of the games you got to schedule that if you want to see those type of games that you're going to have to.
Who's the driving force behind the Lincoln schedule? Like, does Day make all of it? Do you guys get together and talk as a coaching staff saying, hey, here are some schools that we want? Like, how does that come about for you guys?
Right now, well, I would say it's 3 people who do all the reaching out, and everything. I just suggest like who we should. I'm
saying, how does someone like Inglewood or Cajon or St. Bonaventure even come up on your radar? Because there's hundreds of schools.
Well, for one, I tell them don't schedule nobody that runs the wing T. That's the one. That's the one thing is don't schedule nobody who runs the wing T. But so Jason, Carter, not that Jason is Carter. So Carter, Dunn, and Brian. They pretty much reach out to pretty much every D1 school. You feel me? In San Diego, and once we reach out to them, some respond, some don't. Some say they're already full, but then they post that they're looking for a game. 2 weeks later, hey, but stuff happens. So like I said, first we reach out to every D1 school. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, we hate traveling. Well, we will try to avoid it as much as we can. We understand we're gonna have to travel some, but to travel 4 times, was it 3? Was it 3 times? Hawaii. St. Bonaventure, Hawaii, Ventura. Where else did we go? It was just those two. But then next year we're gonna have to travel to those places that we didn't travel to. You feel me? But I don't think we should have to travel 4 or 5 games. For out of town teams.
For somebody who
like
says
that.
they don't like travel, you guys have logged almost 3,000 miles of it this year. That's pretty insane.
But we've had to. That's the thing.
That's what I'm saying. It's still just crazy to me.
Yeah, but that's what I say. That's the process. We hit pretty much every D1 school, see who needs games to schedule it that first, and then when we don't, then we start reaching out to other teams who we hear have games and stuff like that. And of course, I'm looking like, well, hold up, let's see who
Do
they
you guys
did
get
last
teams
year.
in San Diego who are like lower down division teams trying to play the points rubrics game, saying, hey, we'll let you beat us by 100, but we want to lose to it. Like, we're a D3-4 school, we want to lose to an open division school.
Nah,
No.
and at this point, the way that they're doing everything's supposed to be about strength of schedule. I probably wouldn't even want to do it. It's not my call.
But I would assume you guys would have said politely, no,
Yeah.
hey, thank you very much for reaching out, LCAP. We're not interested in this.
But
I'm just curious.
At the end of the day, if that was all we had, then who knows? We might.
I'm just curious.
I don't know how
it.
I don't
set on them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Walk up to you guys and be like, let's play.
I don't know what Dunn's thought process is. You know what I'm saying? I just how we talk about this openly, and I'll tell them how I think. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, it's done. Pretty much it was done in Carter and then Brian. But like I said, it starts with reaching out with every D1 team here, and then we just some out of town teams do hit us for games. I think Carter had Ted Ginn's dad, Ted Ginn Sr. You know Ted Ginn Jr., right?
I know them both.
So his dad, Ted Ginn Sr., he hit Carter about trying to set up a game to go out there to Ohio for like a home and home. And I think
Fun Ted Ginn Sr. anecdote just spliced in the middle. You guys seen the movie Friday Night Lights?
Yeah.
Midland Lee, their big like rival that they play.
Yeah.
Technically, you gotta answer that off the speaker.
It wasn't loud. It wasn't loud.
The Midland Lee Rebels, the year of Boobie Miles, their star player was Ted Ginn Sr.
I thought he was from like Ohio or something like that. He's from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
His son, how'd he get to Ohio then? Well, you don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, no, I just know that I've always thought that was a funny random the little insert.
So they reached out from Ohio. I think a team from Florida had reached out for next year. So we probably gonna do some more travel. It's just how it is now, you know. But yeah. So that's just what it is. As far as lower teams reaching out. No,
that hasn't happened.
That I haven't heard about it. If it has happened, I'm not privy to all those calls anyway. I don't even want to, but I doubt it though. Yeah.
I would love to be able to give one team props here, like, hey,
yeah,
that's ballsy, man. I like it.
San Diego High did though when they had Charles James, but I don't think we were D1 yet. I think we were still like D2.
I was gonna say that was long enough ago that you guys would have not quite been the world enders that you are, and they were on their up and up, right?
Yeah, we weren't. It was like the beginning of the run, so you know,
got to start somewhere, man.
Yeah. That was a time where teams were still calling to play us. You know what I'm saying? But now, like those teams that, like Dunn tells us, like it was teams that used to call, like, hey, we want to, you know what I'm saying? But now they won't even answer the phone or act like their emails don't work or nothing like that.
You and they're like, "Oh, I'm on my phone. Sorry. Oh, I missed you. I didn't see you there."
It's all good though, man. It's all good. We gonna do what we got to do.
And as long as you just keep winning,
yeah.
I mean, shit. What can you do? So, what else this football season? Anything caught your eye where you're like? I mean, I know you watch an insane amount of film, but I'm assuming that's mostly Lincoln film, just for the sake of like you got to absorb what you're actually.
No, but
coaching
like sometimes
on,
we watch, like we have like common opponents, so like I watch.
Any teams caught your eye where you're like, damn, like respect to them this year, like they're on something this year. That's kind of fun.
Helix. I mean, Helix got talent. He just got talent, you know what I'm saying?
Especially considering last year
I think last year was kind of disappointing.
They lost a lot of their close games.
Yeah.
They were one of those teams that would be, you're going to either win by 7 or lose by 7. Yeah. And sometimes that's 50-50 in a football season. Sometimes you win all those. Sometimes you lose all those. And it seemed like last year Helix lost all those.
But two, I think where they were at last year, I kind of think that's where we are at this year. They were a young team. Even though with all, like they have a lot of talent. They have athletes. They got the quarterback. They got Jackson, Kevin. They got guys. I just think they were young, man. And people forget, man. Like just because you have all that talent, man, you still got to develop it and mold it and put it together and everything. So I think last year was like their year, just being young and just trying to put it all together. But I think this year,
is that the biggest challenge for you guys at Lincoln? Is not so much getting the talent out of kids, but getting it to all work together and to mold together into one piece?
That's a great question. I would have to agree. I think, yeah, because you don't, like with our kids, you don't have to tell them to play hard. Like, you know what I'm saying? With our kids,
they already know how to run fast.
Yeah, we gotta tell them to calm down as far as not even playing hard, just the aggression. You know, I don't have to tell them to be more aggressive. I gotta tell them to slow down and calm down before they hurt somebody and get a flag and get ejected or something like that. But so yeah, but more than getting it out of them, it's more getting them together. That's why, like I said, my 3 C's, connectivity is getting them all connected, playing on one string, and then chemistry, just being all on the same page. So I think that kind of falls into your question.
How about for the coaching staff? Because it seems like you guys have a lot of really talented coaches. Is it the same principle where you guys have to all get along on a cohesive, coherent basis, or is a football practice separated enough that like defense is its own little world, offense is its own little world kind of vibe?
You go first.
Nah, we mix a lot in our drills, receivers, DBs, stuff like that. Steve doesn't really have a position group. He kind of just roams around where he's needed or where the focus is during the week. So we usually just split up in that sense. And then if I feel like, hey, we need a really good looks for releases, we can go with the wide receivers. Or they need really good press action for the week coming up, we get the DBs going through.
Because I know sometimes like the iron sharpens iron thing of like low-key offense and defense can kind of have a rivalry all season long internally, and that can not necessarily lead to like, I'm not saying bad blood, but you can be like when you go full, first on first team to get everyone a little hype, like you can be like, damn it, Carter.
No, that's
like stop throwing the ball deep on us right now. No. We're trying to work on run defense.
No, that's a real thing, but I think at the end of the day, competition does make it better, There is competition between coaches, We got Akili over there. He's always challenging me, trying to see what I know and, trying to do some other stuff and, everything.
But you feel like it brings the best out of you.
It brings the best out of you.
As opposed to just makes you guys hate each other.
Like me personally, I like when somebody's better than me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I like it. Or, either as good as me or better than me. It makes me have to get better at it. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of something that drives me.
Coach? Has it been fun bringing the little brother along?
Yeah, I've been trying to just let him find his way. He's been doing a good job. I never had to worry about him as far as coaching it and giving him the knowledge because he never had to just depend on speed and athleticism to play. Because, he was fast. He's not no slow, but he's 5'7"?
At the time.
You know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying? But he was never.
You want to talk about how little he squatted next?
No, but he was never the biggest player, so he had to play with smarts and use those intangibles and have to know how to pattern read.
Those are always the best coaches.
2-to-1. So he had to play like that. So I know him coaching, he has no choice but to tell them that because that's what he had to use. So I don't even have to worry about him as far as that. I just make sure that because he is a younger coach, that they're respecting him. But he gets their respect. They respect him. He puts the time in after practice. I'm trying to be like, hey man, come on, I got work tomorrow. I gotta go. But he's still there trying to put in work. He watches film with him. It's like now he can take the DBs and just do his thing with them as far as film, and then I can worry about the fronts and everything. So I enjoy having him on though. He takes a lot off my plate.
Do people know you guys are brothers on the team? Like, is that like a well-established fact? Or
when they first see him, they think he's my son.
Yeah, when I transferred to Lincoln, that was a big thing too.
Yeah,
I keep thinking you think I'm his son or something.
Yeah.
How old do people think you are?
That's what I said. Like, dude, if this was my son, I had to have a kid at like 12, 13. Like, you know what I'm saying?
What, 7, 8 years apart?
Yeah, but I had to.
Or people genuinely think that just black don't crack, and they think you're 50, and you're like.
Yeah,
no, shave 2 decades off that. Like,
yeah.
Hey, but I do want to go back to one thing though about the competition and the cohesion and stuff like that. So like with
you're saying on the player side or on the coaching side?
On the player side, it was just with them, it's already in them to compete. So, like I know one thing I do, I let them compete. It's not just with the offensive guys. He's like within the group. We would do drills where they have to go against each other, and I do that because that's what they like, that's what they're interested in. So I just took it upon myself, like this is kind of the way I kind of want to run things. And then we even do it with the receivers too. They talk a lot of trash during practice. We do too as a group. Well, so that's why I like getting that out of them.
I feel like a lot of coaches would intrinsically say, oh man, what a dream it would be to have 61 commits and everyone else is really good at football. But also at the same time, like, I feel like that's not necessarily a dream because like you guys are saying, you have to focus so much on less about teach these kids to run, get them motivated to lift. And you have to be like, hey, not everyone can get the ball on every single play. Not every one of you guys can make the big sack. Like, you got to learn to just, this is your role.
And that's why I think not every coach can handle.
Is built for that top
Is built for that type of, to coach that type of team either because it's harder to coach a team like that. People think it gets easier with more talent you get.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
It really gets harder.
Some people don't realize the difficulty of, if I've got dogs at every single spot, how do I maintain all of them happy and
you gotta know how to coach it. Like you said, you gotta know how to manage them, keep all their egos happy. You gotta know how to, sometimes you gotta whisper some sweet nothings. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta massage a little ego. It's just different stuff you gotta do. Like and you guys gotta keep it real with them. You know what I'm saying? Kids these days, I feel like they sniff out bullshit a lot easier. Like when we was playing, like I was playing, we was more just kind of like whatever the coach said, do. You just got to do it. Whether you thought it was right or wrong.
Word was gospel.
You feel me? But like now these kids, they're smarter. they go know if it's some BS or not. So
I feel like it's also not just they're smarter, but they're more empowered to be able to transfer.
Yeah.
If you feel like coach is just giving you a whole load of something, you're more empowered to speak out because
that too. But I think it's just like I said, I think they can pick. They can, if it's not genuine and it's fake. That's what I mean by they can pick up bullshit. If it's not genuine, if it's fake, if you're trying to be like some drill sergeant, tough coach, and you can just look and tell like you're not that type, you weren't never that type of person. You feel me? Like
the first drill sergeant type coach that I encountered in life, and in retrospect, none of us were really as high school kids emotionally equipped to handle this guy. But at La Jolla, we had a guy come back. He was an alum, like, I don't know, 6-7 years ahead of us, and he came back to be the DB's coach for varsity, but he had just returned from 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan as a scout sniper. Yeah. And so he was the kind of guy that, like, would run conditioning with us, but had his vest on, and he's, like, would be yelling at us, like, you guys, you think it's hot? You think it's hot? Try being out in the freaking desert killing people. And I'm like, all of us were like, bro,
in Afghanistan,
we are a little confused right now because you're not talking to us about football. You're talking to us about like some Rambo-ish. Like none of us are on this wavelength, and we had no way to know where this guy was coming from, what his head's like. In retrospect, as an adult, he probably just had PTSD from being in the Army, and like we should have said, "Hey, coach, we love you, but can you go get some help?" But like, yeah, it was one of those like we were more focused on like trying to figure out like where is this guy coming from than absorbing any of the him trying to teach us, hey, when the quarterback is looking off this receiver, go to that guy, we weren't focused on the football. We were focused on the BS of just his personality clashing with our personalities. And so I feel you on that, where kids can have a good feel now for, I'm not buying what you're selling. Yeah. I don't need you yelling in my face because it's not making us any better as a team. Yeah. Have you had to adjust as a coach on that front?
Nah, because as a player,
you're the same coach.
Yeah, as a player, I never liked it. I never liked the type of coach like that. So I knew when I became a coach, it was just easy for me to just be like the coaches that I did like. You know what I'm saying? I liked one of my favorite coaches was my DB coach, Doug Jones. He was just a real authentic dude. You know what I'm saying? I think the best what he did was he would tell us stories all the time, but it wasn't good stories. It was stories of his F ups. You know what I'm saying? And I think that when he did that, it showed me that he wasn't perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, well, he makes mistakes just like me. So then, like, you know, when he got on me, it was just coming from an experience thing. Yeah.
You felt like, hey, I respect and listen, and I appreciate what you're saying.
Exactly.
Versus coach could be spitting wisdom, but he's yelling it at the top of his lungs, and I don't connect with this guy at all.
And they act like they're perfect, like they never make a mistake. I tell a player fast, like, hey, that was my mistake. If I say something, if I yell about him on the field and I see it in film, you feel me? I'll wait to get to film in front of the whole team. If I embarrass him in front of the whole team, I'm going to apologize to him in front of the whole team. You get what I'm saying? I'll do that.
I feel like more people at the freshman and JV level need to hear that as coaches than anything else, because I feel like I hear a lot of people
at the freshman, JV, and the youth level need to hear that.
They turn people off from football who not necessarily were going to go on to be fantastic football players, but sometimes you just need depth. Sometimes you need 5 or 6 extra wide receivers to run some scout team with and all that kind of stuff.
That leads to another thing of what I promise to never try to do as a coach is I'll never try to minimize a kid's confidence. I never try to make them feel. I never try to make a kid's confidence go down. You feel me? That's one thing
build them up, don't break them down.
I never want to make a kid feel less confident than he already is, and I try to make him feel better. So
you get to do that at the college coaching level. Because at that level, it's a business.
Yeah, because they think they already. Yeah, that's different. That's different.
No, I say that just laughingly because that's all is in my college playing experience. This was all. It was just you all suck. None of you are making my life any better. You're just making my job harder. Play harder. All right, so let's talk about the second half of the season for you guys, both as a team and as a podcast. What are some? I know we got Montel from NBA Sports, SDFNL coming in next week. What are some of the other potential guests and goals that the Wild Bunch is thinking about bringing in?
Like we do have Montel, we got Burt Reynolds coming through.
If you have Burt Reynolds coming through, that's what's up.
Grossman.
We got Burt Grossman coming through. Mitchie Slick's gonna come on.
You know what Mitchie Slick is, Chris?
He doesn't. He doesn't. He'll figure it out.
Is this someone that I would know them if like
He's in the Southeast community. He's from San Diego. He's a rapper.
okay?
Played at Lincoln. He's real into football and everything. He helps us out.
He's big in the community.
A lot of stuff.
Deal.
He's big in the community though. You know what I'm saying?
Big.
A lot of people in San Diego do know him.
I probably know his stuff.
You never heard the song "Sliding Down Imperial"?
Yes,
That's
okay.
him.
Yes,
him,
yes.
him.
Deal.
Yeah, we got. He said he'll come through.
That's what's up.
Yeah. And then we're gonna get Coach Hines in here from.
Did you talk to him yet?
Yeah, I did.
Nice, kick ass.
We've been wanting to talk to him for a while, and just we're gonna reach in not to just coaches too. Like we said, we're bringing in.
Yeah, got a
Slick.
couple players coming in too. Couple former players.
Well, I mean, we already had an awesome first one.
Yeah,
with
Archie.
With Archie.
Got more guys coming like him. My cousin Jordan Howden, he just made the 53 man with the Saints.
Yep.
I'm gonna get one with him, of course.
That's what's up.
18 reps last game.
I got Don. You know, of course, my guys. I got Don
You get
Chapman.
more snaps than Olave?
I got Don Chapman coming through. I'm gonna have Keyshawn.
One of my all-time favorite interviews, Don Chapman.
Don, Keyshawn Smith. I'm gonna holler at my boy JL. He gonna come through and bless us. We got some things cooking up. Yeah, got some things cooking up.
That's what's up,
Got
man.
some basketball guys coming through.
That's
I
what's
got a
up.
couple of baseball guys coming through. My boy Reggie Lawson.
Okay.
He played at Sunshine when I was little, and he played at Hoover High School, and he was show high before show high. I'm telling you, man, he was like a legend in Sunshine Little League.
I don't know how much you guys know about baseball, and maybe this is like I can counter your not knowing who Mitchie Slick is.
I love baseball.
Okay,
man.
so you know who Ted Williams is then? Yeah. Okay, deal. You know where Ted went to high school?
Over.
That to me is of all of the randomest like alumni in San Diego when you're going to different high schools. And you're like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know he goes there or whatever.
Yeah.
You walk. Have you been into the Hoover gym?
Yeah, it's like
And
big,
you walk in,
picture.
and there's this little row of photos of people that went to go whatever, and then up at the top, it's Ted bleeping Williams and Todd Doxey.
Yep.
And you're like,
Todd Doxey, rest in peace, man. That's the greatest football player I've ever seen with my own eyes.
that's one of the hardest people that ever hit. He was the second hardest that I ever got hit. Tyler Gaffney, when he broke my rib, was the hardest singular hit. And then me trying to tackle Todd on a kickoff was one of the worst decisions I had ever made.
Todd was ridiculous, man. He, 6'3", light skin.
Yeah, people don't realize Hoover for a couple of years in like the late 2000s into early teens was a really good football school.
Yeah.
Like a really, really good football
Todd
school.
was Randy Moss, bro. Nobody could guard him. But then he's gonna go to Oregon and play free safety. He was like right in that mix with like he was Patrick Chung. Who was the other one? They had like
You're saying at Oregon with him?
Oregon,
Yeah.
Like
and he was the best.
In that mix.
Okay.
And then
He was the best of
bro. That's why I be telling dudes, I mean, don't be doing no like that water rafting. I'm scared to do that. I jet ski. That's about as far as I take it. I'm not diving off no cliffs, nothing, man, because it's just random. And it's like not just him, it's other kids that didn't happen at Oregon. You know
It's the worst part of the job that I have encountered so far as Prep Insider. In the 7 years, we've lost 5 or 6 kids to the most random like single car accidents. You know, was driving home from school.
That's my little bro.
Micah Pietla-Wiggs was an Eastlake player.
Markel Bird. That's my little bro.
And there's some of that where you're just like, man, losing anybody is awful, and you never want to be like, oh, like whatever, like don't miss him at all. But losing somebody who is that young, that gifted in that, like it's just the worst.
He was on his way, bro.
Yep.
He was going. It was nothing that was going. That was the only thing that could stop him. You know what I'm saying? Some freak.
But yeah, walking into
stuff like that.
Ted Williams and Todd Doxey at the top, and you're like, well, there's 60 years in between the two of them, so they must not have had that many good alumni. But that's two really crazy alumni.
Nah, so I got Reggie coming through, and then I got my boy Jadon Matthews. He played at Horizon. He was real good in baseball.
We're gonna run out of Horizon alumni eventually, but I'm down to corner the market.
Hey man, those are the guys,
all Horizon alumni.
Yeah, that's what. Horizon got some history, man. Horizon got history.
I mean, not anymore, but yes. It was a run.
Man.
But you guys are having fun with it so far?
Yeah.
It seems like you guys are the new favorite podcast in San Diego.
Trying to, man. Trying to. this off season, we'll spend a lot of time to really try to broaden.
Oh, I'm terrified.
And,
you the way that you attack football season and get into I feel like you're gonna eclipse us, and I'll be working for you in a couple months.
Nah, man, you helped us out, so we never gonna forget.
I would like to clarify, they don't work for me. There was no I did not mean to apply that. This is a co-op situation together.
I know. But so that was as far as the podcast. It's my boy, man. It's my boy right here, now.
Yeah. No. Hey, people don't realize the here. We'll move this to the intern cam. The SDPI intern is the.
This is John Wick's dog,
and is a Walmart greeter too of a John Wick dog. Friendly with everybody. Literally, some of your players were like, "Oh man, I don't do dogs."
Yeah.
And then at the end, they're like, "Okay."
Nah, I'm a not do dog guy, but I'm a
yeah. But all right, honestly, you guys are freaking fantastic at it, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. And I think that everybody, I was about to add myself to the wrong camera there. If you have not checked out any of the Wild Bunch episodes, go check them out. These guys are doing something that I think we're headed in a direction that I would assume most of the kids that come into this studio don't read a newspaper or even know. Like if I said, what is the Union Tribune? They wouldn't know. Probably half routinely watch something like a KUSI or a news segment on the end that purveys some sort of sports something. We're into an era now where for how big we are as a city and how good we are at sports, we have criminally few people talking about it at the high school level. So it's awesome and refreshing to have you guys doing something new anyway, but to also not have it be more boring ass white people, because the rest of the group is, and it's in general, it's nice to see a different perspective. You guys are active coaches. We're kind of the career legacy media people and all that. It's really nice. And I'm glad you guys are doing it. I'm glad you guys are having fun with it. And I'm stoked to see the reception.
Appreciate it, man. Just trying to get better and better.
And we just want to say thank you to everybody watching too. We appreciate it. We do this for y'all.
Never, ever, ever give the fans any appreciation or thanks. Always leave them wanting more. Always leave them wanting more. Say, hey, if you want appreciation, come back next week.
Got you.
Next week on the show, we'll give you guys. No, but seriously, the from this being a random tweet that you sent out, being like, I'm a little fed up, man.
Yeah.
I need to get on air with some shit. to now, it's been a fun adventure.
Yeah.
Anything else this week, or just want to plug Montel and say talk to you guys next week?
You talking about as far as this
podcast right now? I'm asking you, Jenny.
Oh, no. Yeah, as far as the podcast, yeah, that's pretty much it right now. As far as the podcast, just trying to keep growing it and keep building it. You know what I'm saying? So as far as the second half of the season, still a lot to go. I think this is our tough stretch right now. We just had Cajon. That was like our first test. You know what I'm saying? Even though people might not think it was a test, it really was a test. You know,
they had some dudes over there.
Yeah, they had some guys, man. They had two corners that was real good. They gave our receivers some problems. Our receivers really have never been tested like that, as far as somebody trying to play man-to-man press on them. So that was good for them to see. So we had Cajon this week. We got Inglewood next week, and then we got Cathedral and Madison. So these next are that 4-game stretch. These next three games. This is I guess this is our test to kind of see where we're at, to kind of get us ready for playoffs and everything like that.
I'm sorry for breaking character. She went over and found a Gatorade bottle.
Oh, you're good.
Is that your Gatorade bottle that
no,
she's stealing?
I don't know where she got that from.
You just find a random Gatorade bottles.
I don't know where she got that from.
It's gonna be a hell of a test, man. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch, as always. And I as much as I was saying at the beginning of this show, I want 8 to 10 good schools. I will be fine with you guys in Cathedral, or you guys in Carlsbad doing the dance.
Who you think the 4 teams gonna be? What you think right now? What you see right now?
I think that it comes down to whoever wins the Granite Helix game. One of the two of them will get in. And then I haven't seen enough from Saints, Cathedral, or Madison to be like, I know which one of them will get in. I think that probably that means that Mission Hills makes it. I would assume. But I also am not Braden Soprenet, and I'm not Brian Caruso, and I don't do the math as
That's why I think that's why. So let me ask you a question. Do you think there should be like a committee?
I think water polo does it right, and everybody should. I have long said this.
To get the
I think water polo does it better than everybody else in the county in terms of playoff seating.
How do they do it?
They do the math, and then they just have a quality control panel of elders who only supersede the math if they can all look at it and go, collectively, with our 100 years of experience in this room, we know that's a bad matchup. They will look at here are the 8 teams that made it to open division for water polo, and they'll be like, some years, great, all 8 of those are quality schools, and then other years they will be like 2 years ago, Poway and I think it was Valhalla, both had like 25 win seasons. They were like 25-2, and the math played out that they made it to that 7 and 8 seed in open. But the room collectively said they haven't played a single team in open. They didn't play any of the Bishops or Carlsbads or Cathedrals or any of that. So we know how that's going to go. Like they're a waste of 2 seeds. So they bounced them down to D1, and they brought 2 teams up from D1 that had lost and won and kind of traded games with all the open division teams. So I think that you trust the general concept of the math to get it close. And then you have, 5 or 6 retired coaches who put in 10 years plus each, kind of there to be like, hey, we saw the math. It says Lincoln, Carlsbad, Mission Hills, Helix. But the Helix and Granite was a triple overtime game, and they, Granite only lost by a field goal. And then you can go, okay, we really want those 2 teams in it, so we're moving both of them up into it.
So when you talk about the water polo thing, are they seeding it best based off matchups, or are they seeding it based on 1 through 8 records and everything? Like,
so the computer spits out, here is according to the math,
the top
1
18.
through 8, and then the open, or then the D1, and then the 2, and then 3 and 4. And they give them an exact, this is how it should be seated according to the literal math. And then the people in that room, they do 2 things. They look for, are we going to get a repeat of a league game in the first round of the playoffs based on any of this seeding? Is Bishop's going to play La Jolla because one is the 4 and one's the 5, in which case then they go, okay, we'll move some of that because we don't want a league match in the first round if we can avoid it. And then the second thing they'll say is, holistically, do we as a group that knows more about water polo than anybody else in San Diego, do we really think that teams number 6, 7, and 8 all actually made open division? Or do we think that they played the math game? And they will try to get rid of teams from open division that played the math and did what they had to do to get there. And they'll say, look, you got there without, you went 25-1, but your one loss was to Newport Harbor, and you lost by 15 goals. Bishops, Cathedral, Carlsbad, all of them hung with Newport Harbor and only lost by 1 or won by 1. So we see that gap exists, and you're not going to do us any good in open division. It's not going to be competitive. You're going to get scrubbed that first game. So some years the math comes through and they green light, good, we love it. And then other years they just exist as a quality control. And I think that if you took Coach Carroll from Oceanside, and so it's like you put 10 football coaches in a room, each of them have a bunch of experience, you can probably come up with a pretty unbiased group of dudes who could.
So right now for football, there is no committee. They just do the
math. The math. The week 12 ends that Friday night. The scores get plugged in. Hines and those guys print out whatever the computer sends them. Okay.
I agree. They need some type of committee. They just can't go by. I don't think they can go by math.
And I think that the problem to me with a selection committee is that for 4 years of high school, I was on a bunch of 5-5 or 6-4 La Jolla teams who always had home games in the playoffs. Just because our coach was the big dick swinging kind of guy who walked in there and bullied his way into, oh, like, we had tough strength of schedule. We played them close. We this. I've been doing this for 25 years. And everyone would be like, okay, fine, La Jolla gets a home game. And I'm like, why?
I think you got to mix it up. I think
mix.
I think you go by the math. So like last year, looking back at it, do you think they got the top 4 teams right as far as open?
Who was the 4 seed?
Poway. They got blown out. They got killed. That game was over by the first quarter.
So that's one where we are, and I want to tread carefully because I don't want to discredit what Poway did. They had a great season.
Not discrediting it, bro.
I just want to, yeah. So no.
Do you think they should have been in open? Yes or no? When you look back at it,
I think that yes, you probably could have benefited from a group of people coming together and saying Mission Hills or Mater Dei is probably a better slot.
Mater Dei should have been in there.
Because to me, you could look at it and you could say that Mater Dei, their game against Carlsbad last year was decided on a false start.
They got cheated.
Called, and they lost to Cathedral because they had 26 penalties against them, and they were just still figuring it out in game 1 of the season.
They lost they lost to Cathedral because they lost to Cathedral. There's not no penalties. They lost to Cathedral.
I saw that as they could have beat Cathedral if they had just not gotten in their own way. Like, it was the first game of the season. You're going to get some false start. Like,
that game is that game. But they flat out got cheated against Carlsbad.
I think that you could have taken a group of people and said, most likely for the equity of the quality of the playoffs, Mater Dei up, Poway down. And I think Poway probably still winds up in that D1 game against Mission Hills or in the semifinals. Like, they weren't a bad team, but we saw that there's a gap between, because we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, we're not a deep city in football. Yeah. There's this, and then there's everybody else. And so, yeah, I think that last year would have been a perfect year where you could have had a little bit of a quality control committee.
And then, like you said, I don't think we should have had to play Madison back to back. I don't think we should. Yeah, because it's
another league matchup. Yeah, so yes, I'm 100% with you on you trust the math largely because you can't have it be just some mysterious committee that nobody really knows what's going on there. Oh, like, how did this team get to that slot? Like, oh no, because they picked it. But yeah, I'm with you that the math isn't perfect. Yeah, because you don't want that. As much as you guys want to make it to that Open Division championship, I don't think any of you would probably enjoyed 56-0 in that first round of the playoffs.
I mean, if it happens, it happens, but just I don't think it took that to realize that Poway should.
It was 8 days later, 12 days later. You had just beaten them, and then you
Madison. Yeah. We played them. They had to go back and play them again. It's back-to-back weeks. I just didn't think, I don't know. And that's why I had to ask if it was a committee because if anything, they should have just went to 4, and then they play Carlsbad. You feel me? But then I'm kind of glad they did because I wouldn't want to play Poway. I just wouldn't have to watch that film and prepare for that formations and stuff.
And that's what you just don't want. Is you don't want to waste a week in the playoffs. You want, especially because football, you can't really do double elimination. You can't just be banging
baseball
on their bodies forever.
Nah.
You got to get it crisp. You got to get it right. Yeah. And I think it could apply to all. Well, okay, we will 1 minute on this, and then we will say thank you, and we'll end this because I'm on a tangent now. I think that football should be done that you have a division assigned to you at the beginning of the season to give some relative strength of schedule concept of like, hey, Lincoln's up here, Valhalla is down here. Yeah. But that at the end of the season, everybody gets put into one giant rubric, and then you just take teams in chunk. You go, okay, if we have 100,
that's how they do it up there
in Southern section, yeah. And I think that you look at some schools where like this year they have their seniors and they are really good, but you're like they're in D5. That's not fair to the rest of D5. So put them in D3. And then let them, after they graduate all those seniors, go back to, D5 that next year. Because you see some of the schools will get absolutely like Bishops right now. Mm-hmm. Tyler Buckner screwed Bishops. Bishops should not be D2.
They're still in D2 right now?
They're still in D2 because they lose their
They were like
They lose their non-league
They
games,
dropped.
but then they win against Country Day and SFC, and they always have 4 or 5 wins by the end of the season. So they're not doing enough. Like they need
drop.
to,
They
they
need
need
to
to
lose their
pull the
league.
plug
Yeah.
and tell all of their seniors, sorry seniors, for the benefit of the program, we need to go 0-10.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely.
And
agree with
most teams will usually wind up in the right spot anyway. Like it's not like Poway wasn't gonna abuse that and go down to D4.
Nah, yeah.
But maybe they were like high D2. Maybe they're the 1 seed in D2 instead. Maybe they're the 5 seed in D1. Who knows? But, the math spitting them out as just the 4 seed, you're like, you need to do a little something on that. I think also the one for me this year is Army-Navy. They're in 5AA.
But then they lose in the playoffs too. They lost to some. They lost somebody, didn't they?
Army-Navy last
Yeah.
year, yeah.
They
Then they
lose
brought
to?
in 3 more kids who have
Oh, for
D1
real?
offers.
See, I didn't know that.
Army-Navy has
They
allowed
stack like that.
They've allowed Army-Navy has allowed 2 touchdowns this year through 5 games. They've outscored their opponents like 250 to 14. They have
Oh yeah.
they have a defensive end who's committed to Washington.
Yeah, I know.
And they're
I knew
playing
that.
against Calipatria and stuff like that. And to me, that's where, like, it's no offense to Holtville, but Holtville should have a chance. If Holtville goes 7-3, they should have a chance of winning the 5AA title as
But if
opposed
they
to
have
being
a team like that. Why are they scheduling teams like that though?
because their coach
I don't know.
didn't realize. From what I understand, their coach didn't know all those kids was going to land in his lap, except for he knew Ratamana Bula Bulavu. But like
Yeah.
Army Navy is not necessarily a school that goes out athletically and like grabs dudes. They kind of wind up with the misfits and the kids that didn't fit at other schools winding up there. It's not a powerhouse athletically.
I got you.
It's something that this year they should be D3, but then you let them slide back to 5AA in 2 years when everyone's graduating.
I agree. I agree. In order to get the best teams, I think that might be the best way to think about it, to try to get the best teams is how you said the Southern section does it. I just think that's like a slippery slope. I don't know. I don't know how you. That's just not. I don't know how you figure that out.
To me, the also the problem when I have this discussion a lot with people is where we're each coming from, because I feel like you're coming from somebody who is part of the best football program in San Diego, and you see it through the lens of like, how does the cream rise to the top? And I see it from the, oh, kumbaya, let's all hold each other's hands and have high school sports fun. Like, it's enrichment time for 99% of these kids, and it's business time for 1% of these kids. Because realistically, very few of these kids are going on to college, anything, let alone D1. Like, not like a lot of these kids are just random Joes and Janes that want to have fun for a couple of years playing field hockey or playing water polo or football or whatever it is. And
I think that's the point of the divisions, though.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you shouldn't have a division that's locked in to the point where if somebody goes out and gets 4 or 5 dudes, it screws out, it locks out the rest of the division. You shouldn't.
But that's just how it is in that division. If you're playing in D4 or D5 and you get 3 or 4, you feel me, some dudes, you can run through it. That's just what it is.
But I'm saying that team should then be allowed to flex up to a place where it is relatively equal in their skill set.
I don't think that coach will want to do that, though.
Well, that should be the price, though, that you pay. If you show up and you're like, hey, I'm not going to do this just with homegrown talent, but I'm going to bring in some kids, even if it's not malicious, even if it's just you're a big name and you're reviving the program and kids are choosing your school, you should know that, like, that's the game that you're going to be playing, is you're going to be playing the more competitive version of high school sports because you're there with dudes and dogs and winners. And if you're down at the lower levels, you should be allowed to come to the realization of like, hey, we are all just here because we want to have some fun and we want to just hang out. And like, none of us are going to live or die by this. And it's just fun to say, hey, in high school, my team made it to the semifinals. As opposed to saying in high school, my team made it to the first round of the playoffs and then we lost 108-0.
There's nothing wrong with playing football like that. But if you're going to hop into that game like that, you got to understand that there are people that's really trying to eat and do something. And you got to be willing to go through that. You feel me? From
the coaching perspective, and I come from it from the equity, and we should it should all just be fun. And that's where it's hard to, you can't solve it.
It's not about just being like at the top. I think that's just sports, period. That's just, It's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think that's how life works, bro. Like,
yeah. Oh, yes. I'm very much
You know what
doing
I'm
the kids should not learn the hard lessons on the sports field thing. I'm saying
sports is life lessons, though.
and I think that we're starting to split a really fine hair, and like we're more or less agreeing on everything. And
Yeah.
I'm saying that the life lessons sometimes should come from the coach can impart them. Hey, it's practice. It's a Thursday. You're a little sore. Like, let's power through it, because sometimes in life it's not going to be easy. As opposed to the life lesson of like, oh, Robbie Rouse is a better football player than you, and you're a punk for thinking that you had any right to sniff the same field as him. And like my life lesson that I learned from that was get out of Robbie Rouse's way. And I don't know what that translates to anything else
I
in
don't think
life.
it's necessarily saying like you're a punk. I think it's just.
I use myself
Yeah,
as
I
an
got you,
over
I got
exaggerated
you.
example, but I think that we're splitting a really fine hair here, and I would be curious. This is something that we honestly should do a show where you have like, and maybe we'll get into this later in the season, but like you should have like a D1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 coach.
I want to do that.
All sit down and discuss that, because I think that you would run the spectrum on the answers. I really honestly think that you would get a couple people saying the same thing that you're saying, and a couple people saying things that sound like fucking quantum physics to you. Because you're like, I don't understand where you are coming from in terms of why we should organize high school sports that way.
No, I definitely do want to do a episode like that. I have some friends that coach on like those lower levels and stuff. And I know they can outcoach guys that's D1 or open coaches. You know what I'm saying? It's just about, it's about the players, bro. It don't matter how good you can coach.
I think it's also
it's about the players.
To me, it's not all about football, and I'm trying to come up with a magic bullet that fixes everything. Because a lot of sports have different issues come playoff times. Some sports have the thing where you guys are saying, like, we need to figure out the open division. Some sports are saying, hey, every year D3 has been an absolute wash because one school rises above and just slaughters it. So it's hard for me because I try to think about this on a very all 30 sports type of thing, and there is no single fix for all of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Hey, look at that. We agree on something.
No,
and just like that, America, racism has been solved.
Oh, man, we good. We just talking, man. We just talking.
I'm messing with you. Anything else?
I don't know, man. What's these top 10 lists looking like, man?
I'm not gonna get into
You not got that?
No. Look, hey, if you guys are, as my camera dies on me there. Oh no, we're back. Jason Carter was agent 0 of this, coming up to me last year going, I got receipts. You guys didn't have us in the top 10. I'm like, Jason, there's only one reason I didn't have you in the top 10. I haven't published a top 10 in 5 years. That's the only reason. I don't do it. It's so stupid. Do it. Top 10 rankings are fantastic and fun, and they're clickbaity, and they drive engagement. But the two reasons, the last thing I ever needed was to go do post-game interviews, and kids be like, you had us ranked too low. I'm like, all right, like someone had to be ranked somewhere. And then the second thing is like, on some of this, you can't know going into this season. Yeah. You can't know what a 16-year-old did in terms of like life. Where's his head at in the off season? Some of them are hitting puberty and growing a ton. Some of them are getting their first girlfriend and losing all their focus on sports. Some of them, mom and dad haven't, like, you need to wait until like middle of the season to have film and footage and stats and stuff like that. And at that point, what's the point of me throwing out my rankings 5 weeks into the year? Because we all know there's the 4 or 5 real tough teams at the top. There's that middle group where you're like, yeah, they're 3-3, but they're playing like, you're like, okay, El Camino's ambiguously somewhere between 5 and 9. They're okay. They're good. They play tough teams. They've lost some games. And then you're always like at the 9 or 10 seed. I've dealt with this with Bishops for years. Everyone being like, oh, Bishops should be number 4. I'm like, no. No, even at their very, very best, they would have told you, we are not going to survive.
I mean, their CIF game was kind of a testimony to that.
What, the one of El Camino Bishops game was exactly a testimony to that it took Tyler Buckner literally dragging the ripped apart and shredded corpse of his offensive line and saying, I am going to run for 615 yards and 5 touchdowns. One of them, the most iconic touchdown I've ever seen, Buckner straight trucked a kid at the end zone and ran over it. Like a big Samoan kid did a somersault backwards because Tyler Buckner hit him. And they still lost that game. To me, that's all I never need. Like, they can always be a 9 or a 10. Same with, like, right this season, Mount Miguel was cruising towards the highest I would have, even if they went 10-0, the highest I was ever going to put Mount Miguel is 9. Because they're a D4 team. And I just don't have the ability to cohesively judge. How would D4 line up against you guys? I would assume that it would not go well. I'm not trying to start beef or anything. I'm just saying that I would assume that.
Yeah, you good.
No,
bro.
I'm just trying.
You good.
I'm trying to. I would assume that it would not end well for Chula Vista, Mount Miguel, or anybody else at the top 3 or 4 in D4 if they played against you guys or Carlsbad or something like that.
Yeah, there's a,
You guys probably have that phased out though, 100%.
yeah, I don't even.
You don't give a yeah. We could do a whole nother show.
Yeah, we tripping off that, bro.
Hey, let's we'll do that for the after the season is over. We'll air the dirty laundry of death threats and other minutia that you deal with as the
We'll
head
have some
coach.
fun in the off season for sure.
Well, until then, thank you for tuning in to episode 4.5
4.5.
of the WB Talk Show. A wild bunch, and we'll say see you next time.
Yes, sir.